Could Paul Heyman be secretly working with a big new client off screen? We'll also check out what's going on with the rest of the Bloodline, AJ, and more. Starting things off with Paul Heyman and the events of Survivor Series. The big first interesting thing to note from the night of Survivor Series was the pre-show. During the pre-show, the panel was talking about the current events of Paul Heyman and the Bloodline story. Big E, Jackie Redmond, and other guests of the panel spent several minutes discussing the idea that Paul Heyman is usually a few steps ahead of everyone, so they were speculating about what he could actually be up to. The panel even touched on one of the community fan theories, and that was Paul Heyman's red shirt that he wore during his return night. The panel highlighted the red shirt and how there had to be a hidden meaning behind it. So to see these theories and ideas mentioned by the panel on an actual WWE program, it seems like this is WWE's way of confirming some of these details about the theories that are floating around right now. Telling by how long the conversation was that they'd had during the pre-show panel, it looks like Paul Heyman's red shirt was no accident and was a legitimate part of the story. That red shirt had a bigger meaning behind it, but we'll have to wait for that reveal. The other important thing to note is how each of the original Bloodlines arrived to the venue. Paul Heyman made his arrival completely alone as he looked around and sipped on his drink. And this is newsworthy because Paul Heyman never showed up to any show all on his own over the last few years. Paul Heyman had always arrived to the arena right at Roman's hip, opening the car doors for him and always showing up together. So the fact that Roman and Heyman are arriving to the arena now separately is a small but potentially very important detail to keep an eye on. They may be on friendly terms right now, but it's clear that something has changed and shifted with the relationship between Roman and Heyman. Even the night of Heyman's return, he never stepped foot into the ring to greet Roman, never really interacted with him directly there during his return. They did not even speak to each other going up the entrance stage that night. And even with the face-to-face segment with CM Punk, there was a bit of awkward silence going on there between Roman and Heyman before Punk showed up. Just so many hints that something is wrong and something has changed there. But on top of arriving alone to Survivor Series, Paul Heyman also did not make an entrance with either Roman or CM Punk during Survivor Series. Paul Heyman only made his way down to the ringside after the match was well underway. He popped up to help them refocus and get back on track together to win the match. The OG Bloodline and CM Punk end up winning the match and defeating Solo Sikoa and the new Bloodline. That's where we get some more interesting moments with Paul Heyman. Heyman is waiting outside the cage and he's greeted first by CM Punk. Punk tells Heyman that when he needs that favor, he'll come around asking for it. So once again, that's a big part of this story. Now that CM Punk has joined this match for Heyman as a favor, Heyman owes Punk this one big favor that could impact the story in a major way. So they continue to tease that favor and keep it fresh in your head because it'll come back up for sure. Heyman then is greeted by Roman Reigns as he was coming out of the cage. Roman briefly placed his hand around Heyman's head and continued to walk. So everything goes back to what the pre-show panel was talking about. Paul Heyman is one of the most manipulative and sneaky characters that pro wrestling has ever seen. Even when you think you have him backed into a corner, he can have a massive plot twist right up his sleeve that swings things back in his favor. So knowing who Paul Heyman's character has always been, that's what's making fans feel like there has to be something bigger with what Paul Heyman is currently up to. This whole thing of getting Punk to join forces with Roman and the OG Bloodline cannot be that simple and easy. There has to be more complex reasoning and hidden agenda to why Heyman so desperately put this all together and was so passionate about it. Fans are just getting that strong feeling that Paul Heyman is not being fully honest with either Roman or Punk about what's really going on here. It sort of feels like he's manipulating both Roman and Punk as part of his actual much bigger plan that they just don't know about. So considering that Heyman is not really siding completely with Punk or Roman and has become a bit distant with both of them, this has fans thinking that Heyman's current client and the individual that he's really working for and listening to is someone that's off screen at the moment. It's a theory we've spoken about before, but it once again fits in with this current situation, and that's the idea of Paul Heyman and The Rock actually working together off screen to spin and manipulate this entire Bloodline situation in whatever way they want. Has Paul Heyman been sent by The Rock to get a feel of what's going on right now with Roman, Solo, and the Bloodline? Remember that we did see The Rock make a return at Bad Blood that was not really followed up by anything major. So what if that return from The Rock was the first big reveal about his hidden partnership between The Rock and Paul Heyman? What if that appearance itself was an early sign there from The Rock that everyone was about to get worked by Paul Heyman in the near future because of this plan that they came up with? Maybe The Rock and Paul Heyman's plan was to make Solo's side of the Bloodline weaker, so Heyman pulled all the strings to manipulate Punk and Roman and indirectly have them help with his real plan with The Rock. And now that Solo's side has been weakened a bit, maybe Heyman and The Rock will now turn their focus on breaking apart Roman's side of the Bloodline from within. Roman's gonna think that Heyman is back as his beloved and devoted Wiseman, but Heyman will be collecting intel and reporting back to The Rock about everything going on. Why would Heyman do such a thing? Well, it all goes back to the idea that The Rock and Heyman are basically on the same page. The Rock made it clear at Bad Blood that he was not a fan of what both Roman and Solo were doing. And obviously, Roman and Solo have been done wrong by Paul Heyman, so it makes sense for Heyman to want to seek retribution against the both of them as well. So, with these common enemies of Roman and Solo, is that what brought The Rock and Paul Heyman together off screen for this partnership? It just strongly seems like something's going on here, and things won't go back to being normal with Paul Heyman being Roman's Wiseman. Being CM Punk's big favor that's hanging over this story, and Paul Heyman acting suspicious and traveling alone, it just seems like a couple of shocking Paul Heyman reveals will be made that changes everything. So keep a close eye on Paul Heyman in the coming weeks because something is definitely going on there with him. AJ Lee is back in the headlines for a very cool Easter egg in her new comic book. AJ already made it known a few weeks ago that she included her physical self into her latest story. But not only did she include herself, but she also made a direct reference to her wrestling career. In the comic, AJ's character can be seen sporting a crop top, jean shorts, and knee-high socks, which is a direct reference to her wrestling attire and look. AJ even acknowledged the fans that pointed it out, and did confirm that it was something that was thrown in there and hidden for the fans to find. Now, was this a reference and hint at AJ getting back in the ring in the future? Well, that remains unknown, but at least for the time being, it was a very cool Easter egg for the fans to see. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.